What's up, guys? JP here in my workshop, and I've had a lot of questions from people, and they're all asking me, how the heck am I getting into these buttons that are damaged? There's several ways that I use to get into buttons, and different type of techniques that I use to get into buttons, to work on them, to get in and get the pushes out. A lot of people were curious, and they've asked me several times, but I'll tell you. There's several different ways. If a shank is missing, obviously if there's a hole there, you can actually gain access to a button through a shank hole that is missing. So if you have a shank that's missing and you got a hole, you obviously have access to get into the core of the button. For instance, this one here is damaged. You can see it's just a regular general service Eagle button. But I figured that what I would do is show you this button as an example of a button that is damaged in the front, but there's absolutely no access to get to it in the back because it has a shank intact. Obviously, if it has a shank intact, you got to have access to this button from the back to repair the push. Now, this is a delicate process, and it's I wouldn't recommend it to people just to go out there and start doing this, because there's a way of doing it and a process of doing it. But essentially, if you want to get into a button like this that has the shank attached, you peel it to get into it. Now, this is difficult because the backing of a button is on a slight outward angle, okay, on the inside. And then you have the brass that's on the front that loops around that outward angle. And that's what keeps it really nice and tight and snug. Which means if you're going to have to gain access to a button doing this, I just wouldn't recommend it to people that are not experienced in doing it, because if you try it, you're going to possibly run into a lot of problems, and then might be calling me to fix your button. But like I said, is two options: through the shank hole that is missing, or through the outer rim and removing the entire button apart from each other. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to show you how I remove the entire button apart from each other to get in access to this button. All right, so moving on here, I'm going to show you that there's several different tools that I use, and each person is different with the types of tools that they have or restore. But if you don't have these type of tools, again, for one, even if you do have them and you're not experienced, I wouldn't recommend doing it unless you're experienced in doing this. But if you do have these type of tools, this is what I use. They're fine, paper thin pieces of metal tools that are able to slide in, and they're angled perfectly. I have them made. Now, these are made to angle perfectly around the edges of the buttons. Now, I even have these here to where you can't really see how fine they are, but the metal is less than paper thin pieces of steel metal that is able to actually get into the sides of these buttons and open them up. And if you've noticed, I've labeled each one of my tools for what the purposes are. I mean, I have these different ones that are allowing me access into these buttons. So it's all about having the proper tools, and then once you have these tools, know how to use them. If you don't know how to use them properly, again, I don't recommend doing this, because the button will break or split as you're doing it. All right, guys, so I'm doing this video with one-handed here, just to give you an idea as I go along. But obviously, I don't have anything that can hold my camera while I do this, but I'm going to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So this here, very fine blade, super thin. It's enough to where I'm able to get into the little tiny space or crack around the outer edge here. And what I use this for now is just, I'm slowly working around this crease line, this edge, to remove any dirt, excess corrosion, or anything along those lines. So as I do this, I'm just giving myself a little space, and I'm going all the way around, loosening up all this corrosion and dirt, and I'm getting in there in this little tiny space. I'm telling you, it's paper thin. And I work it around just to clean that area up. Because essentially, like I said, I want to give myself space because this is the area that I'm going to be getting into and removing and peeling out this outer rim, peeling this back. But as I peel this back, there is a point to where I need to make up my mind. Okay, is it a point to where I need to stop because I start to see sprawling, and when I see that sprawling, I'm not going to see it with the naked eye. Every once in a while, I take this button or the button that I'm working on, and I put it under a high resolution mag to see if I see sprawling or cracking. If I do, then I know I need to change up my game plan and then go to where I need to start annealing this button. I try to do it without annealing because I want to keep that original patina as much as possible. All right, I've worked up to a different tool now, and this tool here is one that I made or modified to be able to get into this little space better. Like I said, I have several different tools that allow this to happen, and I just work my way up. And again, just so you guys know, I'm only doing this on a General Service Eagle button just to give you an idea of what it's all about. Obviously, when I'm doing the repairs on buttons, I'm doing it on buttons that are rare, like the Jasper's Green button that I just did, or the, or the Mississippi button that I just did. But this, again, now I've stepped it up to a different size, and I'm working around this edge. Just working around this edge. And what this is doing is it's paper thin on the tip, but it widens up. So as I come through with it, it just gives me a little bit of extra wiggle room. And when I mean a little bit, it's not much at all. You got to do this really slow and be very patient with it, because if you do it fast, you'll put sprawling or little cracks, and before you know it, it will split. So I'm going to work this around, or continue working this around, and then I'm going to step it up to the next item that I use to start to peel it back a little bit. All right, so to give you guys an idea of where I'm at now. So this is the next tool that I use, and it's a different size blade. Now this blade is super thin as well, but what this is allowing me to do is I find the weakest point of the seal. Every button has it. They're going to have like a weak point on the seal of where the backing meets the front. It's just a little bit bigger or a little bit more of a space. So once I find the weak point, that's where I then penetrate with the super fine paper thin blade that I have. And as you can see, the entire tip is already in that weak point of this button. And then what I do once I'm in that weak point, this is super fine and thin, I just work it around. This is not a quick process. This is a long process getting into a button. The hardest part is getting into the button without cracking or snapping that outer rim, because once you crack or snap that outer rim, then it's a whole nother step that you're going to have to take to repair this button. But if you can get it all the way around without snapping it or cracking it, the chances are that when that backing comes off and you can repair the inside from the inside out, the push, you're able to get that backing back on, and the chances are that that outer rim will come back around and seal back up perfectly are really high if you don't snap it or crack it on this process. So that's why it's super important to go super slow during this phase. All right, once I get to that phase to where I use that last tool that allows me to get more space, as you can see, bring you guys in closer. Let's see, there you go. You can see how much space I was able to get in between now. Compared to how tight it was, look how I was able to work this around. Now this tool, like I said, now is another one that I use. I don't know if you can see it. There you go. It's another one I use, but it's paper thin. And I'm now able to get down in here, and it's curved like the button, to where as I'm able to come through on one end here, the backside has a little bump out on this tool, to where as I wrap around the button, that bump out on the backside of this tool then pushes the curvature of this, pushes it. It's a bump out tool, and it pushes it. I actually made this tool. And you know, it pushes that button rim out. So what I mean, I made it, I actually grinded this down and created this curve with that bump out for the purpose of this, to come around like this and bump that edge out. But as you can see, it's already coming all the way out, and it's not cracked at all yet, thank God. But you know, it's not cracked, and I can actually spin this around. I'm doing this one-handed, but I can actually spin this backing around. So I have a feeling that I'll be able to remove, so you can hear it, I can remove this backing right now. But it's hard to do with one hand. But we're going to go ahead and try, which is fine, because if you noticed, I did it only 3/4 of the way around. I left this quarter still really tight, if you could see that, okay? So I left that side really tight, and the reason why is because if you don't have to unpeel everything and you're able to get the backing out without unpeeling everything, do as least as possible. That's the way I look at it. And then, so when it goes back together looking all the same. So, all right, let me get this backing off, and we're going to see the inside of it next. And look at the inside of that now that I got it off. I don't know if you can zoom in and see that. I don't know if that's, but look at that. Look at a gold gilt inside there. Most of the time when I get inside buttons, that's what the inside does look like. I mean, it's just, it gives me that original look of what the button looked like with the gold gilt back in the day. I mean, this is what it would have looked like on a Civil War soldier's uniform, nice and shiny like that. But you can see the inside here, how it's got that break or cut through and all that damage, but you could see how I was able to keep that rim intact all the way around. So whenever I get this back, you know, I'll be able to put it back together. And but this wasn't quick. This video seems like it was probably quick, and I was able to get into this quick. I've been working on this for a long time. You know, I'm just giving you a quick segment to along the way, so you guys can sort of see how I get into these buttons and what I do. Now that I'm in it, then you know, obviously this has got a dent on the outer side here. I need to take care of that and fix that. If there was any shank issues here, to where if it was missing a shank and I wanted to reattach a shank, now I can do it, and just make sure that if you can see here how it has the shank loops, or part of the shank ends come through on the opposite side here. You know, that's what I would do is then, you know, make sure it's soldered in properly, and then move forward. If I wanted to reshank it, because I was fixing the front as well. If I wasn't needing to fix the front and it just needed to be reshanked, I'd just do that from the back. But all right, we'll move on to the next step, see if I can get this pushed out, and then you know, at least get it pushed out and see what happens from there, and then put back together, and then you guys can see how I seam it back up to where it looks like a flawless seam again. All right, I'm gonna bring you back here and show you what I've done. This took a while, but just so you have an idea, you remember how this had the dent in it on the side? It is no longer there. Took care of that rim, and that's the backing with the gold gilt. Told you about earlier, had the dent. Needed to take care of that, so that's good. And you remember that big, let's see if you can see it there, but there was the nasty push with the brake that went straight through. I took care of that. Now, what I mean, I took care of it, I was able to work the metal out to where it's in its proper shape and form. And then now what I'll do next is work from the inside out to where I'll run some solder, silver solder or solder, and get in here to make sure that that's seamed up properly. But it's seamed up. It's exactly seamed up where it should be. But what I mean is to where it seals all any cracks that might be in the face. But so like to work from the inside out, and there's a reason for that. So but you know, it's back to shape, and as you can see, it's all the way open. So this is going to be going back on real soon, fitting back on there, and this button will be put back together. And you remember that big push? It was a massive push in front with the cut and the hole. It will no longer be there. So, yep, just wanted to give you the next step. All right, the backing's back in, and now what I need to do is I need to work this around. And I've already worked from the inside out, and the front is done. But I want to go ahead and work this seal back around and seal it back up. And then whenever I'm done with that, then I'll go ahead and show you the front and how it turned out. But I'm coming towards the end, closing this button back up, and this will be another successful repair of a button. So this is just a quick video so you guys can sort of see how I get into these buttons, because when I tell people that I'm peeling them back, you know, a lot of people are like, there's no way without breaking them, because these two-piece buttons are so weak, and they are. So if you don't have the skill level to work with the metal or the proper tools to do this, please don't do it. You'll destroy your buttons. Just give it to somebody that knows what they're doing so they can take care of it for you. But all right, so let me go ahead and finish this up right here, and then I'll show you the front of it and the end results. All right, guys, here's the finished button here. Got it back together, and the back is completely done. I'll bring you around to the front so you can see that. I don't know if you can get a better look at that. So you can see that that's done. It doesn't have a push anymore. And what was there is no longer there. The push with the big hole and tear is no longer there. And the back is intact. So that's the finished product. Hope you guys like it, and now you see how I get into these buttons. So don't do it yourself if you don't know what you're doing. It takes a long time and could cause some issues, but there you go. Hope you like it. JP Hunts Restorations. Give me a shout out if you guys need any work done.